Welcome to While We Were Distracted, the podcast where we explore topics that often get overshadowed in the rush of daily life.
I'm looking at a stack of sources here that they lay out this story of what witnesses are calling a real-life hypergame.
It's a wild narrative, a kind of shadow reality, or the Matrix, as some put it, that's supposedly unfolding right now, mostly on X and YouTube.
Right. And our sources really come from two different streams that seem to feed into each other. On one hand, you have this really intense witness testimony on X.
And on the other, you have these incredibly detailed, frankly terrifying accounts from people on YouTube who call themselves targeted individuals, or TIs.
So our mission today is to, go beyond just reading these claims and actually unpack the story they're telling.
Exactly. We're trying to trace the structure of this alleged surveillance and coercive control network. A lot of users are comparing it to, say, the Diddy or Epstein operations.
Right. But this one seems to link powerful political figures, venture capital, and, well, some very advanced biotechnology.
And it all centers around this systematic psychological harassment.
Okay, so let's start with this idea of the hyper game. What is it? We have witnesses like Makeda Piriano and Xander Garcia laying this out.
They're describing a huge, multi-year conspiracy. And Makeda, she just puts the stakes out there very plainly. She says their hypergames are basically Hunger Games.
Wow, Hunger Games. So what's the purpose? Why would anyone set this up?
Well, according to Xander Garcia, it's framed as a pleasure seekers group, but it's all intertwined with surveillance and what he calls bioeconomy crimes.
He calls it a sadism outlet of master and slave. That's intense.
It is. The claim is that it's a cult network that leverages sexual favors for access to elite circles.
And the sources get specific. They mention powerful men like Peter Thiel, who we know is heavily invested in transhumanist tech.
Which suggests a direct line between this alleged political access and a very futuristic biotech agenda. It's not just blackmail.
No, it's like the commercialization of a person's identity.
Yeah.
Of their DNA, even.
And that brings up the biotech angle, which is chilling. The sources point to an image that supposedly links this whole network to Jeffrey Epstein's alleged pleasure genome project.
A pleasure genome? What does that even mean?
The claim is it involved DNA sequencing to engineer human enhancements. And it's linked directly to the scientist George Church and this idea of modern eugenics.
The scale of this alleged corruption is it's huge. Makeda claims she was personally victimized through identity cloning and gaslighting.
And the sources even predict that public charges are coming for some really high-profile political figures for, negligence in letting this happen for years.
It seems like even the witnesses aren't totally sure who's pulling the strings.
Right. There's this disagreement. Makeda suggests Elon Musk is being blackmailed and extorted because he participated in targeting people.
But Xander offers another possibility.
Yeah, he says others might have hijacked the technology to frame Musk. It suggests the game itself is built on these layers of confusion.
Which brings us back to that central question. What is a hyper game? I mean, it reminds me of Jordan Peterson's philosophical view.
Oh, absolutely. Peterson sees life as a grand metagame. His point is that you shouldn't just try to win a small, petty game.
Right. The goal is to win the set of all games by aligning with your, ultimate values.
But these claims we're looking at, they twist that whole idea into something literal, something coercive.
It's not about personal growth anymore.
Not at all. It's a real-world operation where wealthy individuals and celebrities allegedly watch the victims and provide incentives, tokens, etc.
So they've turned Peterson's philosophical challenge into a literal forced hunger game for a voyeuristic audience.
That's the allegation.
Okay, so that's the alleged structure. Now let's get into the tactics. The mechanics of how this game is actually played, according to the targeted individual sources on YouTube.
Right, and these are the people who claim to be victims of what's called gang stalking.
Which they allege is a comprehensive program, something with roots in old government psyops like MKUltra and COINTELPRO.
Exactly. The goal isn't to capture or kill you. The sources say it's designed specifically for isolation and destabilization, to drive a person to psychosis.
So you shatter their reality, make them paranoid, destroy their relationships, their career. And the testimony of Myron May, a lawyer, he details two major fronts for this.
Street-level harassment and electronic warfare.
Let's start with the street-level stuff. How does that work?
Well, the first step is isolation. The network allegedly goes to your friends, family, coworkers.
And what turns them against you?
They convince them to monitor you, either with lies like, oh, they're under investigation, or through blackmail. It cuts you off from your support system.
And once you're isolated, they start the conditioning.
Yes. A process May called sensitization. They'll take a mundane object, for him it was dark sunglasses, and associate it with harassment.
So that every time you see that object for the rest of your life,
You get a jolt of fear. It keeps you in a constant state of high alert.
that's then amplified by what they call mobbing.
Right. This is where multiple stalkers harass you at once, usually in public. Imagine 5 or 10 cars all passing you at the same time, and every single driver is staring right at you.
Not at the road.
Not at the road, at you. Sometimes doing coordinated hand signals that only you would understand the meaning of. It's designed to make you feel completely surrounded.
And the physical harassment, it just sounds relentless. There's another tactic called braiding.
Yeah, it's simple but effective. Drivers flashing their high beams directly in your face or shining powerful lights into your windows all night.
So you can't sleep.
You can never get restorative sleep. But maybe the most insidious part of this is the noise campaign.
This is pure psychological warfare.
Absolutely. It's designed to maximize stress hormones, prevent sleep, and we're not talking about your neighbor's loud party.
No, the sources describe constant screaming, loud music, and machine-generated sounds.
The detail here is what's so unnerving. May described hearing this repeating, very unnatural cock-a-doodle-doo noise.
Not a real animal.
No, clearly a recording. And you hear it every single day between 2 and 4 p.m. The absurdity of it is what makes it so destabilizing. It proves it's coordinated.
It's so calculated. Okay, so if the street-level stalkers are the foot soldiers, what's the command center?
Well, this is where we get into the electronic harassment, the alleged linchpin of the whole thing. And sources point to researchers like Dr. Robert Duncan.
This is where it really veers into science fiction territory. We're talking about control panel stalkers.
People in a remote operations center, allegedly monitoring TIs 24/7, first through digital intrusion.
Right, so your mouse starts moving on its own, files get manipulated, your computer gets viruses.
And the goal there is pure gaslighting. You start to question if you're imagining things. You can't trust your own screen.
But the claims go way beyond that, into biological intrusion.
They talk about biometric manipulation, supposedly achieved through nanofibers that are covertly delivered to the target.
Nanofibers. And once they're in place.
The control panel stalkers can allegedly monitor and even induce bodily functions. They can target pain receptors, flood you with stress hormones.
Or induce a panic attack.
That's a key claim. They can speed up your heart rate so it feels exactly like a heart attack. May said he went to the hospital multiple times, certain he was dying.
And the doctors would find nothing wrong.
Nothing. Perfect EKG. It's medical gaslighting.
This capability seems to connect directly to the claims about direct energy weapons, or DDW.
It does. The sources describe this sudden, intense cooking heat that hits the body, along with dizziness. It lasts a minute or two, but it's profoundly frightening.
And that tech is the foundation for the most extreme claim of all. Psychotronic weapons, mind control.
The classic example is Voice of God technology, or VOG. The claim is that it uses focused microwaves to induce sound directly inside your ear.
So you hear voices that no one else can hear.
Exactly. This would explain the anchoring voices Myron May heard in his apartment, commenting on his every move in real time.
And it allegedly works the other way, too. Image induction.
Right. They can supposedly put images into your mind while you're sleeping, controlling your dreams. But the truly invasive part is the claim that they can see images from your mind.
Your memories.
Your memories, your thoughts, your emotions. A total psychic invasion.
And if we circle back to the gang stalking on the street, this tech would explain the impossible coordination.
That's the theory, that VOG is used to give covert directions to the street-level stalkers, like, he's coming up on your right. Instant, silent, untraceable communication.
It's unsettling how all the pieces of this narrative lock together. And at this intense level of control, it brings us to the final frontier of all this, the biovibrational connection.
Yes, the work of Dr. Max Rempel on DNA resonance. He might provide the theoretical framework for how all this could even be possible.
And his theory is not based in simple biochemistry.
No. He describes DNA as creating a morphogenic field. It's an electromagnetic vibrational field that shapes the body.
He points out that mainstream science only understands, 1.5% of our DNA?
Right, the part that codes for proteins.
Yeah.
Rempel theorizes that the other 98.5% is a kind of uncracked holographic vibrational program. He basically calls DNA a genome computer.
So less of a blueprint and more like a biological antenna.
Or a transceiver, yeah. He proposes that DNA is an electrical conductor that plugs into a collective morphic field.
Which would be a biological basis for telepathy.
Non-local telepathy. Communication that isn't blocked by shields or distance because it's operating on a vibrational frequency.
And Rempel is very clear about the stakes. He says cracking this code could lead to amazing things, like electromagnetic drugs.
But critically, he says it also opens the door for the mind control and technology-assisted telepathy. And BCI research, brain-computer interface research, is being funded to explore exactly that.
This super scientific theory connects right back to the more esoteric claims in the sources.
It really does, like the tarot correlations that Makirda's sources cite. They claim intruders want this connection to steal a person's divine design.
To siphon energy from people with abundant DNA to elevate their bloodline.
Which is just another way of describing the same core theme, the weaponization and commercialization of human identity itself.
Yeah.
From the spiritual to the genetic level.
This has been a huge deep dive. We've really covered two main prongs of this story.
On one side, you have the social media witnesses. They're laying out the hypergame structure, the cult network, the political stakes, the bioeconomy.
And on the other side, you've got all the YouTube content detailing the mechanics, the gang stalking, the psychotronic weapons, and this DNA tech that supposedly makes it all work.
And at the heart of it all is this total struggle for control over the self, whether it's through social engineering or just direct technological manipulation of your own biology.
So understanding this whole narrative, it gives you the language, the framework to analyze these incredibly complex fringe stories that, they merge high-tech research and geopolitical conspiracy into one single story. So that brings us back to Jordan Peterson's metagame. If this network is real, if this technology is real, if the battleground really runs from the street all the way down to your DNA, does his view become the only winning strategy?
Meaning that true victory is just sacrificing all the small wins to align with your deepest values.
Exactly. In a life where every part of your being is allegedly a battleground for external control, is that the only way to win? Something to think about until our next deep dive.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for the next episode on While We Were Distracted.